Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1111B, and today's date is October 26, 2016, and the title of the episode is Companies Are Preparing for an Event by Raising Terror Insurance Limits. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, in the last couple of reports, we've been talking about the TTIP, the TPP, CETA, and we realize right now that Belgium is holding out. They don't want to sign CETA. And after 3 missed deadlines, why isn't the Canada-EU summit canceled? I mean, isn't the writing on the wall that, guess what, nobody wants this? But look how these central bankers, these corporations, look how they continually push and push and push until they get their way. And this is what we're seeing right now. Here in the United States, we have Obamacare. And we talk a lot about Obamacare. And what's very interesting is Obamacare right now is a complete disaster. I mean, we went over this many, many times, but the architect of Obamacare, MIT economics professor Jonathan Gruber, he's arguing that the law is working as designed. Those individuals that could never have health insurance who get subsidies, now they have health insurance. They don't have to lay out hardly any money. And the reason why they're having a problem is because the penalties are too small. Yes, you heard that right. The penalties are too small and they must be made larger. Now think about this for a second. This was supposed to be a benefit to the people of the United States, where everybody can get health insurance. It's supposed to be affordable. It's supposed to give you great benefits. And they placed a penalty on. And we know why they did this, because otherwise the insurance companies wouldn't be able to make money because people wouldn't join up. If people didn't join up and apply for the health insurance, the insurance companies, well, their profits would decline and they would not be able to do this scam. So they created these penalties thinking that if you just heard the word penalty or another tax, you would automatically elect the insurance. But people started to figure out, well, wait a minute. The benefit to me is not that great. And think about this also. Congress exempted themselves. Obama really doesn't have Obamacare. If it's that great, our fearless leaders who call themselves leaders, which they are not, they should have been in the right out front, showing everyone how great it is by taking it and keeping it and using it. But they didn't do that. Actually, for the staffers in Congress, Obama said, oh, whoa, this is too expensive for you guys? All right, then we'll waive you. You don't have to get it. But think about this for a second. They created a penalty to get everyone into the insurance arena. It didn't work. And now they're having a problem. So now we have Jonathan Gruber out there saying, listen, this is the only problem we have, is that we didn't have something to push people into the insurance market. We didn't penalize them enough. Well, if it was so great and such a benefit and it was affordable, you wouldn't have to put a penalty on there. The only reason you penalize people and force them into doing something they don't want to do is because they know it sucks. That's it. And Obamacare is awful. And the only reason they have anyone in Obamacare is because you have one hand, those people receiving the subsidies, and the other hand, those people who had their health insurance, they lost their health insurance, so they had to go and find health insurance. And where is there to go? Obamacare, that's it. The rest of the people in the country said, I just can't afford it. This is why no one is signing up. And even those people that are signing up, they're dropping out. It's a complete disaster. It was a scam on the American people. Now, a couple of days ago, the Pentagon was asking veterans to repay the salary or the bonuses they received. And this has created an uproar among the public in the United States, saying, this is ridiculous. And of course, the veterans are saying, this is absolutely ridiculous. We have to repay the money. And we have to go back in time here, because shortly after the U.S. invasion of Iraq, the Pentagon hired Bell Pottinger, a London-based PR agency. The PR firm was tasked with promoting what the Pentagon called democratic elections in Iraq, ultimately earning over $100 million yearly. Part of the firm's job included producing fake al-Qaeda propaganda films. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism recently reported this, and the Pentagon seemed to have no issue allocating taxpayer resources to have these videos produced. And they spent a lot of money on these, millions and millions of dollars. Over 10 years after the Iraq invasion, the Pentagon is now concerned about its past appropriations. Well, at least part of them anyhow. So soldiers back then who re-enlisted in 2006 and 2007 were told that they will receive a bonus of $15,000 if they re-enlisted for a 6-year re-enlistment. And remember, these individuals are sacrificing their safety, they're leaving their homes, they're going to fight for the United States. And the Pentagon right now wants their money back from them. Maybe they should be looking at where that $10 trillion is that Rumsfeld misplaced. And I'm sure there's a lot more than that that they cannot find, because we've been hearing a lot of reports that there are trillions of dollars just gone out of the Pentagon. And the people looked at this and said, well, wait a minute. Are you kidding me? These people went out and fought for the United States. Now, I know people are saying, well, it was for the central bankers, but in their minds, they were fighting for freedom, democracy, for the United States. They were giving up their everyday lives, sacrificing their lives, leaving their families, their homes, and maybe not even see their children. They were doing all of this for the country, and they were promised a certain amount of money. And believe me, to go out and fight like this for $15,000, that's not a lot of money. Think about what these politicians are getting to sit behind a desk and to become corrupt and to not care about the people and to work for the corporations, for foreign governments, for central banks. So this is not even a lot. And after this lie that has been exposed to the public, it appears 2 weeks before the election that the Pentagon has backed off its demands for repayment of the reenlistment bonuses from tens of thousands of California National Guardsmen. Well, that's absolutely right. They should not be asking these individuals for the money back, because they decided that they were going to allocate this money. No matter how it got to them, they were not responsible what they received. They were promised it, they received it. Maybe the Pentagon needs to go and look for the trillions of dollars that is missing. Maybe they can ask that firm for the money back where they were creating fake al-Qaeda propaganda films. Maybe that's where they can go. But again, you can see how these politicians, how the U.S. government really treats our veterans. And our veterans, they are the lifeblood of this country. They make huge sacrifices to go out there and to stand up and to fight different armies, different individuals. Now, I know people are going to say, well, these wars aren't real, but remember, many of these people, they don't know this. They do believe that they're going out there and they're fighting for our country. They don't realize what is happening with the central bank, with corrupt politicians. They know a little maybe, But we have to remember, a lot of the armed forces, they block all this information. They don't let them see alternative media. They don't let them see other things. And these individuals should get the same benefits as those people in Congress, those people that are working in the government. Because if you really look at what they have incredible pensions, they have credible insurance, they have incredible everything. And they're the ones destroying the country. Actually, it should be the opposite. The veterans should have the pensions. The veterans should have the health insurance. The veterans should have whatever these politicians have. These politicians actually shouldn't even have these things. There's no reason for it. There's no reason for them to have the best of the best and to live like kings and queens in Washington, while our veterans are waiting to be seen by a doctor, where our veterans come back with problems. And we can see right now, this is something that needs to be completely changed in America. Now, in the past couple of months, we have been seeing North Korea, they've been test firing their missile systems, and the United States government central bankers in South Korea, they're making a very big deal about this. And of course, this is attached to many different agendas. One of them to up military budget, bring in the THAAD missile system, bring in the tank infantry into South Korea, and prepare for the next war. And we can see right now the United States government central bankers, they don't like countries that have nuclear weapons because, first of all, it makes it very difficult to invade a country. Second of all, it makes it very difficult to have regime change. And you can see with most of the countries that they've gone into, it's those countries that don't have nuclear weapons where they're able to have regime change or invade. And we see right now that everything the United States government central bankers have been doing is not working, where they are placing sanctions and they're trying to control North Korea. And North Korea is going to continually to try to develop nuclear weapons. Are they going to use it on the United States out of the blue? No. This is propaganda. This is what the United States uses to move military assets around the world, to up military budgets. And we see James Clapper, the head of the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, said that the notion of getting the North Koreans to denuclearize is probably a lost cause at this point, which actually I do agree with him. It is a lost cause because sanctions don't work. I mean, Obama said it, but he continually places sanctions on all different countries like Russia, Syria. But he tells us that sanctions don't work and we have to remove them from Cuba. So we can see right now that sanctions really don't do anything. Actually, they make the problem even worse. And every time you put pressure on a country, they're always going to do the opposite of what you want them to do. And you can see right now that the United States government central bankers, they've been trying for many, many years to make sure that they get North Korea, and they were trying to stop them from getting a nuclear weapon. Now, they did this with Iran, where they never wanted Iran to develop a nuclear weapon. And we can see that the P5+1 deal most likely had different agendas associated with it. And think about this for a second. One, they were hoping that by doing this, they would have the IMF come in, regulate the central bank there, and place the oil on the dollar to prop up the petrodollar system. The other one is they are now sure, by having all these inspections, that Iran will not develop a nuclear weapon. And like I said before, it's much easier to go into a country and invade a country without nuclear weapons. So you can see from what we're looking at here, there were two agendas associated with this. One, trying to get the petrodollar propped up. The other one, if that didn't work, make sure they will not develop any type of nuclear weapon to make it easier later on to invade. Because we have to remember, going back to General Wesley C. Clark, where he listed all the different countries, Syria and Iran were the last two countries the United States was going to go into and have regime change. And they were going to set up a central bank, put the oil on the dollar. And here we are at Syria, and it hasn't gone any further than that. And I believe the P5+1 was to set this up So it would make it easier once they finished with Syria, if Iran didn't abide by what the U.S. government central bankers wanted, and that was to put the dollar on the oil. Now, we understand that Russia is selling their battle group to the Mediterranean, and at certain points they have to refuel. And the Russian battle group, they were making plans with Spain to refuel at Ceuta, and we can see right now NATO was furious with Spain, and they didn't want Russia to dock their ships in this port. And we can see right now that Russia has decided, well, we won't do this. We'll keep going. We'll go past this area. Now, Ceuta sits on the tip of Africa's northeast, across from the Straits of Gibraltar, from the mainland of Spain, bordering Morocco. And we can see that Ceuta is part of the EU, and its NATO status is really unclear right now. But what's very interesting, since 2011, at least 60 Russian warships have docked there and refueled, and there was never a problem. And we can see right now that NATO is using this propaganda, because Jens Stoltenberg, he was out there warning on Tuesday that the Russian warships heading for Syria could be used to target civilians, which is absolutely ridiculous. Why would Russia bring their entire battle group to target civilians? They're going after the real terrorists. They're trying to clean the country of terrorism. There'd be no purpose to hit civilians, because then the civilians would turn on Russia and Syria. It makes no sense. That is propaganda once again. Now, Russia has unveiled the first images of their nuclear missile, which is capable of reaching U.S. soil. And it is an advanced liquid-fueled heavy ICBM capable of evading anti-missile defenses and hitting the U.S. And this is one of the first of its kind since, I believe, the 60s, which is going to replace the R-36 family of Russian ICBMs, which entered service during the Soviet period. And we can see that these new missile systems, they can bob, weave, and they can do all these different things, where the missile shields that the United States have set up, because the United States has changed their doctrine where they can go after a first strike where they believe they can win, and then have the missile shield protect the United States from the launch of the nuclear weapons from Russia. We know this is not going to work, because we can see the Russian missile systems, the Russian technology that they have is working a lot better than the United States' technology, and it's a little bit more advanced. And we can see right now the U.S. is a little bit behind the curve on this. And this is why when they talk about war, war is not going to be good at all. It's going to be absolutely awful. Because like I said, these countries today, they have weapons that will reach the United States. This war will not be fought in a far-off land. This war will be fought on our land. And believe me, when it's fought on our land, it is completely different. And this is why, at the point where they say we're going to war, even before that, the entire world needs to stand up and say, we're not going along with this. France is going to extend their aircraft carrier mission until December or so. This is the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier. And we can see that the United States is planning something much, much larger in this area. The UK is going to deploy tanks, drones to Eastern Europe to boost NATO presence. They're going to be sending tactical drones, Challenger 2 tanks to Eastern Europe. And we can see right now they are continually moving military assets into position. Now, out in Syria, Russia and the Syrian military jets have not conducted any raids 10 kilometers around Aleppo for 8 days right now. They're allowing civilians who are leaving the city to use any of the 6 humanitarian corridors, which are open 24/7. The reconciliation center that Russia has delivered about 10 tons of humanitarian aid to Aleppo. And Russia and Syria authorities are ready to resume humanitarian pauses in Aleppo if it gets guarantees from international organizations that they are ready to let patients, wounded civilians leave the area held by the militants. Now, Turkey is saying that they are going to continue their Euphrates Shield operation in northern Syria, and they don't care what the Syrian government says. So wait, Turkey is in a sovereign nation. They invaded this country, and they don't care what the country says. So realistically, we have Turkey, the United States, the coalition forces inside of Syria. They have invaded, and they're ignoring the government wishes. Now, we are getting another indicator that an event is on our way. Remember prior to 9/11 where the owner of the World Trade Center took out terrorism insurance? Well, very interestingly, the American International Group, AIG, said on Wednesday that it has quadrupled its global capacity to cover terrorist attacks on property to $1 billion. And what we're seeing right now is companies are out there and they're taking out terrorism insurance right now. This tells us that something is on the way because corporations, they're not going to lose any money. And they already know, because it's an inside job, they already know there's going to be another event and they're already preparing for it. So they're taking out insurance to cover their losses. Just like the World Trade Center took out terrorism insurance months before it happened to cover its losses. They already knew it was going to happen. We're seeing the same thing happen once again. This is an indicator letting us know that they are almost ready for the next event. And everyone should be prepared for what is coming, because you have to remember, this entire system, it's crumbling and falling apart. And we can see that they can't keep the system operating much longer. The patient is dying. The life support will not be able to keep the patient alive much longer. This is what we are seeing right now. So they are getting prepared and ready for this next event, to bring us to war, to blame it on another country and group. This has been their plan, and they're getting ready to move it forward. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.